Welcome to the Peaceful Warrior Podcast. Hello world, thanks for joining me today. My name is Rhea, and today's MOMspace episode is just one of many in the series. They're all very special and important to me, and maybe to you too. But to all the moms that I'm welcoming back this season, thank you for being an important reflector in this reboot season of the MOMspace interviews. Now listen, just the same as the MOMspace series in general, this season is just as easy, straightforward, and possibly one of the best 20 minutes you'll uncover today. The MOMspace interviews are all about, well, I would say moms, but we're only moms because our babies, grown or not, have made us so. And the adventure of sharing life is never an escape, even if sometimes it can feel as though we've entered uncharted territory through our experiences, even when we've absolutely landed already a time or two before. In the MOMspace series, I spend about 20 minutes interviewing a mom so you can be the beautiful flower on the wall, soaking all the sunlight and water we bring to this recording today. It is my intention you will find solace, inspiration, and gratitude in less than 30 minutes. In today's episode, one of the newest season for the series, I'm joined by writer, author, professional extraordinaire, Nikki Anderson. We're going to be sharing some thoughts from Nikki's book, Putting Me First Without, well, I'll let Nikki tell it. Let's lock in. It's a good one. Thanks for joining.
The relationship I have with myself is the most important relationship I will ever have. You just heard an excerpt from Nikki Anderson's Putting Me First, a guide to regaining your happiness and living your best life, available on Amazon, which we will certainly get back to in just a few. But something else, Nick is a mom of one, and if you listened to our last interview on the podcast, you already know she's candid, she's motivated, and reflective. Welcome back to the Peaceful Warrior Podcast, Nikki Anderson.
Hey, Raya.
Hey, how are you? How's it going today?
It's going good. It's going good. I'm blessed. I cannot complain.
I love to hear that. Anytime as a mom we can say I'm not complaining, then that is definitely a good day. I'm so glad I was able to catch you in a quiet moment of your day. We all are
Mhm.
moms and busy with our kids. What is going on with baby boy lately these days?
Wow. He is growing at lightning speed, both tall, so physically growing and mentally, right? Getting to this stage where he is challenging boundaries, right? To see how far he can go, what he can get away with, maybe even what some of your weaknesses might be so that he can use that to get what he wants.
Yes.
And so that's been a new phase, right? That's the latest phase.
Yes.
um but overall pretty good. He's keeping me on my toes.
So, how old are we talking? Because I'm already knowing the age myself, but just for listeners, there's been a little bit
Mhm.
of time since the last time we talked. So,
Yeah.
a little bit older now.
Yeah, so my son Jackson is now 7. He just turned 7 a couple weeks ago. So we're a fresh 7, but he is feeling himself. So if
Yes.
you are a mom of a first grader or a second grader, you probably know exactly what I mean. He is now feeling like, yeah, I'm not a baby, I'm not kindergarten, I'm not daycare. Treat me like a little man. Like, so we're in that kind of attitude at this age.
And I'm going to talk about that more. But you did say a few weeks in, so there was a recent birthday. How did
Mm-hmm.
the birthday go down this year in comparison? Was there an insertion of his opinion or anything this time? Or did you
Oh,
try to
for
keep it
sure.
intimate? Or was it something on a grander scale? How did we
I
feel
feel like
about it?
I always want to go grand and he always wants to go small, right?
Ah,
So we always end up doing what he wants, right? Because obviously I'm not going to beg to spend a ton of money. But it's always very selective with him. Like he has specific, very specific things that he wants to do. So it's like he knows what he's interested in already. He wants to incorporate that in celebrations, but he only wants specific people to be present for it. So he gets to that level. So it's not like a invite all your class. They're gonna, so they can come celebrate with you.
yes.
He is not having it. He only wants specific people to come. So that's been interesting to navigate with him. But he's kind of been that way the last 2 years.
And at that age, it is funny, right, with the friends because they're really just starting to get traction into an actual like school versus like a child care situation. And
Mm-hmm.
when they don't want somebody to come, but maybe, that that person is looking forward to being invited. Because they're outgrowing, like you just said, like they're kind of starting to feel themselves, so they're being more selective. Do
Yes.
you find yourself reflecting on his selectiveness as like kind of in the background, like, yes, because you know that later on, right, that's actually something good to build from that selectiveness. Like, I don't really want
Mm-hmm.
just everybody in my space, I don't want everybody influencing me. And when he gets
Yes.
older, you understand, it becomes a good thing. So,
Mm-hmm. I think, as I reflect on his personality and just growth, even in that emotional development and, mental development, it's intriguing for me to watch because hearing about even my own childhood, my mom said I was very selective. So to see him almost like a little mirror, right? Like, oh, this is what that looks like from a mom's
mhm,
perspective, has been
exactly.
very interesting because it would be one thing if he was kind of sheltered and so he was selective because he only feels comfortable around a handful of
Mm,
people. But he's a very social kid. Like when he goes to a trampoline park, for instance, within minutes you see Jackson and a group of friends, right? A group of new friends, new people he's met, jumping around, playing tag or whatever the case may be. And it's just so natural for him. But when it comes to special moments, I
mm,
think he really values the people that are just simply closest to him. Like he never wants it to be a crowd of people. He doesn't like a ton of attention. And so it's interesting to see him already having this like developed personality of exclusiveness. Like, nope, I don't need all the rah-rah. I don't need all the bells and whistles. I just want this and this and this and this person to be present for my birthday, and that would make my day.
yes.
So that's interesting because I see nieces and nephews, right? And they're the complete opposite. They want to invite the whole class, kids from the neighborhood, people from church. And Jackson is like, nah, that's not really my thing. Just make sure Malcolm's there. Right. So I'm just like, okay. All right. So make sure Malcolm's there, make sure Lennox is there. Great. That's a good time for you. Fantastic.
That's amazing because I have to admit, I see the you in him. When you're telling me this, I feel like you're describing you in a lot of ways. So it's interesting
Yes.
to hear you say it, a little bit more objectively, but, still observing that part in him. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really cool because it kind of takes me back to the excerpt that I read earlier when we first
Mm-hmm.
opened the conversation, and I'll repeat it again. It's the relationship I have with myself is the most important relationship I will ever have, and so again,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of see that in him. Like as long as he's good with him, he doesn't need a lot of relationships to validate the ones that matter the most to him. So I
Yeah.
like that a lot. I do
Yeah.
want to ask you, because we are taking these excerpts from your book, the putting me first. Did the putting me first thought come to you after having a child, or do you feel like it was there
Mhm.
before?
I think it was really a journey through therapy after just like a series of disappointments. And I think more than anything, it was ownership that you can't point it that you lost yourself in those situations, right? Like you're upset because now you feel like you're picking up pieces that should have never been dropped. And so it was a profound moment in therapy that really just became like this theme of you have to learn to put yourself first without guilt,
Mm-hmm.
without shame, without compromise, right? Like you are seeing the effects of only being able to give people bits and pieces. And so you are trying to pour from an empty cup and it's not working. So I think that it was a series of therapy sessions that really opened my eyes to what does that look like? Why haven't I done that? What would that look like now having a child? And so I sat on this book for quite some time. I feel like God placed it in my spirit while I was going through therapy because my therapist told me one day you are going to share this with other people and that will keep them from making maybe some of your same mistakes. And I didn't think about it from the respect of a book, but it started to wake me up at night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the habit of already journaling and getting my thoughts onto paper, just learning to scribe, right? And just saying, what my thoughts are, what I want to come to pass, what I no longer want to be associated with, what habits need to be broken, what things need to, leave my environment. And so as I started to do that and share some of those journal entries with my therapist, she said, it sounds like you're writing a book. Like this book is about you, but it could be structured, in a way that truly is helpful to people because not only are you writing it down, but you're acting it out. So maybe add some of the examples of what you're doing that's helping you navigate this moment. And
Mm-hmm.
so that planted the seed. And to be honest, I probably have 3 or 4 different versions of this book written that I just was never satisfied with. And I felt a lot of pressure on myself to, one, be transparent, even to a degree that I felt was like, that's a little invasive, right? But I told stories and things about like even relationship with my parents or past relationship with a best friend that, betrayed me and just, relationships falling apart. And so those are things that if you know me, I'm a private person. And if you aren't close to me, those are things you would never look at me and be able to tell. I would never have that conversation with you. But I felt like it was necessary to kind of like shed the dead skin and really just be relatable, honestly. Like I know I'm not the only person that's been betrayed by a best friend. I know I'm not the only person that's been cheated on. I know I'm not the only person that's been disappointed by their parents, right? In some capacity. And that's not to, dishonor them. That's not to ruin anybody's reputation as a former friend or anything. It is simply me telling what did I get from that situation? Because in no situation in my life have I walked away empty handed regardless if it worked out or not. I learned something about myself that I need to do differently. And that poured into this book. And after working with a book doula, so I call Gio my book doula.
I love that.
And he helps people to put books together and structure it and make sure that it has the impact that you want it to have and make sure that if there's room for elevation of the book that he gives you ideas to be able to do that. So work with Geo helped me to reshape the book and put away a couple of chapters that maybe he said this is a little advanced, so maybe you think about a part 2.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still some content left to be shared, right? And I have not yet decided, because life has continued to happen, right? I released the book in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time Jackson was 3 years old. So a lot of life happened,
Mm-hmm.
from 3 years old to now him being 7. Me being a mom that has had to go through all these phases and different life things, career, etc. So much has happened, but I still continue to keep the principles in the book alive because I never want to go back to feeling empty again. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I have had to find ways to continue to put myself first, regardless of what's being asked of me. I could be cooking dinner and he could be asking questions about homework. In that moment, if I'm overstimulated, I will say, Jackson, skip the question and let's come back to it. Mommy needs 5 minutes of just quiet.
Yes. Yes. I
Um,
love that.
and
And
that,
I want to pause you there, not because what you're about to say isn't grand, but I do
mhm,
want to emphasize that because earlier you mentioned putting you first without the guilt. And
mhm,
so even in that moment, how do you not find the guilt in saying, hey, skip the question. I need 5 minutes, just in a relatable sense for people who might be saying, I feel so bad when I do that. In these real
mhm,
instances, we can say, put me first as a mantra or, as a general thing,
mhm.
but it's really in the moments, right? Making the moment to
Yes.
moment decisions. And I love that you use that perfect example because that's so common, especially as kids are getting older. It's
Mhm,
like, what? Like homework, like, it
mhm,
becomes
mhm.
different than just ABCs, one, two, threes. And your son is coming at that age now where they are expecting a lot of parental support with the
Mhm.
growth. So thank you for sharing that specific example. I want to ask you
Yes.
about something else that you mentioned in the book, and you kind of just mentioned it now as well with your book doula. Love that term again. I love it. You discuss feedback and how important it is to be able to receive feedback, and from a professional standpoint, that's golden advice. It kind of is what separates the people who want to be better from the people who are, okay with where they are, because you have to be able to accept that feedback. As a mom, how are you giving feedback and receiving it? Kids are really honest these days. They have no problem telling you how they feel, don't feel, especially as you mentioned earlier with like these boys and the manipulations and the pushing the
Yes.
boundaries and these types of things, and you're still trying to give feedback so that they understand where you're coming from when you're telling them don't do this or do this. How is that working out right now in your day to day with the feedback?
Mhm. Um, I think because I'm seeing such fluctuations in Jackson's mood or his reactions and his behaviors, I find myself asking for more feedback so that I don't
Wow.
just react. Because sometimes it's very easy to just maybe assume he's in a mood because he doesn't want to do something. But in actuality, like, even if we go back to the homework example, right? Sometimes he'll throw a fit about homework, or he doesn't want to do something unless um I'm right there beside him. And that's
Mm.
a I think sometimes, in the past I have taken that as like, okay, Jackson, like, you got to learn how to do things independently, not taking into account that maybe there is a reason,
Mhm.
right, that he's hesitant. And so I've had to ask Jackson, like, tell me what's in the way of you wanting to work, independently on your
Mhm.
homework. And he has said, like, sometimes I don't understand it, mommy, and it frustrates me, so I just sit here.
Mhm.
Or I like when you're next to me, so if I get confused, you can help me with the instructions, right? Like, so I think there was a shame that he just didn't know how to verbalize
Mhm.
for a while, that I recognized I was being dismissive of.
Mm.
and maybe just assuming, right, that he's just being lazy. He doesn't want to do his homework.
Yeah.
And I need him to do that on his own because I'm cooking
I'm
or
doing
I'm
this.
folding
Yes.
clothes,
I need
right?
to
And
do
so
this. Yes.
yeah, and so asking him, what can I do to help you, with your homework today? And he may say, oh, I got it, mama. Like, I don't need help. I just
You're
want you
like,
to check in
whew,
when I'm done.
thank goodness.
Right. And that's a relief. But then there are other things where he's like, Mama, I have to do a project, on the, life cycle of a plant, and I have to do all 6 parts. So I'm like, oh, okay. What do you need from me? And I just
Mhm.
ask, right?
Yes.
I'm not going to just jump into action because I
Right.
cannot solve every problem.
Yes. That's beautiful insight. I like that you're asking for the feedback, not waiting for it to come in a frustrated form,
I
but
think you
streamlining
can.
it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I think you can do more. So, what can you take on and how can mama support, right? So, sometimes I do have to push back, but I find myself asking him, how can I show up for you or how can I support you through this so that for one, he does feel empowered. For two, he does learn to solve his own problems. And for three, he feels safe vocalizing when he simply just needs the support or the help. And so that's been important. That's been an unlock for me with feedback because sometimes it's not easy to hear. Sometimes he doesn't say that. He may just say, I feel like you don't care. You just sit me down and say, do your homework and you don't care. And I'm like,
So
Jackson, that
cute.
never happens. But what's causing you to feel maybe like my attention is not like I don't still have an eye on you, right? I can physically
Mhm.
see you across the room, but why do you feel so disconnected as though I'm not in tune with what you're doing as though that's still important.
Yeah.
So that helps. And then from a professional standpoint, um, because I'm trying to grow in my career, I ask for feedback almost daily. What could have been different? How impactful was this for you? Where do you see this project, in a successful place? All kinds of things, right? Because that helps me to see my blind spots, and it also helps me to understand if I am making an impact for other people. And if I'm not, then I know where maybe, I need to take a step back and look differently, or I need to take a different thought partner, or I need more information before I present next time. So that has
Yeah.
been monumental. And I see now the trust and the credibility with, senior leadership growing, more and more, where they call me for problems and things going on now as a thought partner. So I can tell that the request for feedback and then implementation is building, my professional toolbox, so to say. So it's really helping
Absolutely.
in both professional and personal.
I'm glad that you also mentioned those things because I did want to wrap on one of your other notes is what I want to call it within the book because there's several of them and you guys make sure that you're checking out Putting Me First on Amazon, or maybe there's other ways to buy. I'll let you tell everyone
Mm,
that when we wrap, but before we
yes.
do, it reminds me what you were speaking on not too many moments ago. In all that you are, make sure that you are intentional. I think it
Mm-hmm.
goes hand in hand when you were asking for the feedback. That's a very intentional moment that we share with others, asking them their feedback and them trusting ours. It's a very intentional thought. And I also want to better understand how are you bringing the intentionality with how you're motivating others. I know you do a lot of motivational moments on your social media. I know you speak on things to speak life into people, elevating themselves. And so I notice you're very intentional and you've become even more so over
Mm-hmm.
the time with what you're actually posting and what you're actually saying. So, if we could wrap on you letting me know how that process works for you to help other moms with being more intentional, in life in general or professionally as well.
Yeah, yeah. So something that I would say as I was studying to become a life coach, I learned just about the power of purpose And if you plan to live out your purpose or explore your purpose, you just have to be intentional. And honestly, with anything, right? You want to be a good mom, you have to be intentional about being present, showing up as your best, putting yourself first so that you have something to give, loving yourself because, that's something that reflects into how you treat others, like all the things, right? And so when I am, whether it be coaching a client or sharing a motivational moment or video online or even just in daily interactions, I'm always listening for, but why? Like, what's the why behind you doing this, saying this, seeking this, putting that as the goal? Like, does it really have meaning? Even down to meal prep, right? Like, what's the meaning of it? What do you get from that? What
Mm-hmm.
purpose does it serve? And it could just, the purpose could be to save time, right? Let's be honest. Like, we all
Yeah.
could use an extra couple hours in the
Right.
day. But I always say, in anything that you do, don't just be able to shrug your shoulders at it.
Mm.
I'm doing it because fill in the blank.
Oh, wow.
Because I put my time into this, it is accomplishing blank, fill in the blank, right? If I stop doing this, it creates blank, right? Fill in the blank. And if the answer to that is it gives me more time back, it puts me closer to, being centered or spiritually grounded, or it minimizes my anxiety or whatever. Have a purpose behind everything you do. If you are intentional, you are more likely to achieve your goal because you are saying to yourself, this is what I get from it. This is my win. This is my why. This is my benefit. And that in itself, mentally, you don't even realize, subconsciously, that drives you to follow through.
Mm. And what kept coming to mind is you were speaking on intentionality, but I kept hearing in my mind accountability, almost like it
Hmm.
goes so hand in hand. That level of accountability that comes with being intentional. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all that you have today. I do want you to be able to let people know how they're able to get your book, Putting Me First. I know it's on
Yes.
Amazon, but are there any other ways for the ladies, for the moms out there who really have been telling themselves, I just need to start putting myself first?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So you can visit my website. My website is rebirthlifecoaching.com. If you order from my website directly, then I will put a very intentional motivational message inside of
Oh.
your book along with my signature. So that is kind of the perk from ordering directly from the website, is that you get it signed and sealed and delivered straight from me. Well, I won't be delivering it
You're
per
right.
se, but I will be putting it, I will be taking it to UPS or USPS,
Right.
and dropping it off specifically so that you get it within 2 days. But it means a lot to be able to inspire you with a personal message. And it usually is just something from the heart. If you want something specific, you can leave notes in your invoice payment.
Mm.
And if you wanted to go to a specific person, definitely leave me a short message and I got you.
She got
So,
you. I love that.
yeah.
I'm so glad we were able to connect again
Me
this
too.
year, and I'm so grateful that Jackson has shown growth in all the ways and all the things and whatever that looks like for him. And thank you for being a mom to him and sharing your mom experience with us today. Thank you so much. And
Yes.
again, Nikki Anderson, we appreciate you on the Peaceful Warrior podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. And don't ever forget, there's no shame or guilt in putting yourself first.
Love it. Clock it. I'll talk with you another time. Bye, Nick.
Bye.
Enjoyed today's episode? We really hope you did. And there's so many more MOMspace interviews to explore on the Peaceful Warrior podcast. Today's episode featured Nikki Anderson, owner of Rebirth Coaching and author of Putting Me First, available on Amazon as well as the author's website. If you really liked today's episode, Please let somebody know, or me. Until next time.